An AI company did what no one thought was possible. It made people stop using Google. And the person behind it, Aravind Srinivas, the CEO of Perplexity AI.
We try to prioritize being truth-seeking and correct here. Our product needs to be fast, otherwise search should never be slow. It should feel like a really premium product.
Now, the entire world is paying attention to Perplexity. Even Cristiano Ronaldo used Perplexity to help him write his award speech. In just a few short years, Perplexity has gone from an idea to a multi-billion-dollar company, redefining how we find information online.
Perplexity is an answer machine. You can ask whatever question you want. Why should academics be the only ones who are allowed to ask questions? The smartest people have always been curious. They don't have to be academics. But most people don't have the platform or even the tools to engage in asking questions. We want to give that power that billionaires have access to everybody.
That curiosity mindset shaped everything they're building next, including Comet.
The next set of things we're working on, which is Comet, is running on the background even as you sleep, and you don't even have your MacBook or Windows computer open.
Perplexity is not just changing how we search, it's changing who gets to be discovered. So I sat down with Aravind to ask, is this the start of a new kind of internet? How would you explain Comet to someone who has never used it before? Because I have trouble doing that because it's so unique.
Of course, I iterate on this multiple times in terms of what is the best one-liner. For Perplexity, it was very obvious. Perplexity is an answer machine. That's it. You can ask it whatever question you want. I think the way I think about Comet is it's a personal assistant. The first time you can have a personal assistant for yourself, or the other way of thinking about it is, the second brain. And so second brain doesn't mean a dump of data. I'm not talking about a memory store. Brain is not just meant to be a dump store for memory. Honestly, a brain that actually can think with you, another brain that can think with you, and you can delegate what your first brain, the core brain, finds boring and mundane and tiring. Delegate it to the second brain. So stuff like booking reservations, moving around meetings, scheduling a common time for 4 people to meet, sending reminders to people, getting prepared for the day, identifying, let's say you're going to interview someone, reading all their past episodes and podcasts and trying to ask questions that are new and different. These are things that you honestly need. It's not that you don't enjoy the aspect of doing your work, but the actual aspect of opening all these tabs and going through all these transcripts and manually sorting out what is different and new and documenting all that in a new document, and then preparing a fresh set of questions, that is boring.
Yes, yeah.
The part of the curiosity of asking new things, that is not boring. So that's what your first brain is meant to do. So our first brain can be truly at our natural best selves if we can just be curious and explore and interact and meet people and strategize. Well, the second brain takes care of all the boring, mundane workflows. So that's how we think about Comet, giving that power to people. And note that this power is already available to billionaires or people who are very well off, elite society, because they have assistants who do this for them. They have employees who do this for them. They have a team of people working with them doing this for them. But the normal person doesn't have access to all this. They still have to do it all themselves. They have to schedule their own hospital appointments. They have to find the best doctors that are covered in their insurance. They have to find local experiences when they plan a trip. They have to find a good flight deal or a hotel deal, very basic things that you're doing on a daily basis. You don't even think about it, and you spend hours and hours on it. I still vividly remember going to a haircut once here in San Francisco, and another old man walked in and he said, "Hey, I'm frustrated with my morning. I spend 3 hours just looking for a new washing machine to buy because my existing one doesn't work." Imagine these are the kind of things
hours.
3 hours, because it's a big volume purchase for most people. So I think we want to give that power that billionaires have access to everybody. And honestly, of course, it's done in a capitalistic way. We are a profit-minded company, but it's one of the most equalizing things you can do in terms of making something very special and exclusive and elite and giving it in the hands of normal people so that like everyone can be the best version of themselves. Like if you had your first brain to just be yourself and engage and go deep into things that you care about and you're interested in, how could life be for you? Like, what are the kind of questions you would ask and what are the kind of journeys you would discover?
Your research background is rooted in open science and open source. How much of that plays into what you are building today with, especially around, open source and researching different things?
More than the open source aspect or open science aspect, like I go back to my roots. The way I think about it is I was an academic. During my academia, I've always thought like, let me give you a personal example. My dad kind of wanted to be an academic. Like he realized this very late in his career. Like he engaged more in accounting and finance and like he, getting a job and all that stuff that most middle class men go through.
Yeah.
And then by the time you truly discover what you wanted to do, it's pretty late, right? And I've always thought like, why should academics only be the only ones who are like allowed to ask questions and think about like, what is potentially possible and engage in like deep scientific research on that? Like why should it be restricted to just universities? All the smartest people have always been curious. They don't have to be academics, but most people don't have the platform to or even the tools to like engage in asking questions. The moment they have a question, they're either like shut down saying like, your job's not to ask that, your job's to go do this.
Yeah.
And even if they're allowed to ask the questions, they probably don't have the exposure to like the right set of people who could answer them. And they're definitely not allowed to ask questions that don't have answers yet.
Yeah.
And so at least having tools like Perplexity that give you like accurate answers to almost anything out there, at least the questions for which answers exist, which is plentiful already, and making sure you can trust the answer because of the sources it provides. And so every accurate answer is the foundation for the next question, right? And so the way we believe that, like encourage the question work and allow anyone to ask questions. And hopefully that turns the whole idea of being an academic something that is no longer luxury. Kind of comes back to the whole equalizing aspect. So I really enjoyed my time in Berkeley as a PhD student. And I thought like, why can't normal people just have that kind of experience where, they could also like engage in asking questions and getting back answers. And if a paper is pretty hard to understand, you don't need to have access to other elite Berkeley or Stanford PhDs or professors. You can just ask a tool like Perplexity to explain it to you, and it'll do that for you.
I'm really curious, as you're an academic and thinking about how this knowledge is now accessible to everyone, right? How do you think academia will change with this knowledge not being accessible to everyone?
Yeah. So I have a lot of opinions on this. I don't know how it's going to pan out, but have you ever seen in movies like how they portray academic, like for example, the Oppenheimer movie or the Stephen Hawking movie?
Yeah.
It's the job of the advisor is not really to help you figure out answers or like kind of like come and explain your doubts. Like that you do your coursework for that, and that's part of the coursework. But actually, that scene in the Stephen Hawking movie where he knocks on the door and like time. That's my thesis.
Oh yes,
right?
Yes, yeah.
Time. Oh, time. That's your subject.
Why is that a big deal? Or let me give you another example from the days of Google, like which I've really studied a lot, and Larry Page, where we got to go study the web. Like that was the thesis, and like there is no fundamental question there. It's just literally being curious about something.
Yeah, it's true.
Right, like you're curious about what is even time.
Yeah.
Or Einstein was curious about space and time.
Yeah.
The relativity of that.
Yes.
Or Larry was curious about the web.
Yeah.
And that all led to great discoveries on top.
Yes.
But the foundation is like just being curious. So I feel like an academic advisor in an ideal world should be the one who really encourages you to be curious about topics that most people are like, ridiculed for being curious about. Like, what is their question about Newton's physics? Like, Newton just gave it away for you in this book, like just take it for granted and build on top.
Yes.
No, I'm gonna question the foundations of it, like, and say every great discovery has come from people being curious and relentless about questioning the status quo, and not taking it for granted and seeing if there's fundamentally a better way to do things. And so that's the kind of atmosphere that academic universities should truly encourage. But I gotta say, at least during my times at Berkeley, it was not exactly like that. People were definitely like after publishing a certain number of papers, or building a profile for yourself so that you go get a job in another university as a professor or a postdoc, or you get hired at Google or OpenAI or whatever. And I definitely had to do some of those things too. And I feel like that should probably die. If you want to just do a job at one of these labs, I think you can get it even without a PhD now, as long as you're good at writing code and like training models. But if you're truly interested in questioning, okay, why are we even training transformers? Like, let me go and look at the foundations of it. I hope that there's a new academic environment that stimulates that kind of thinking. And with tools like ours, like you don't need someone else to answer your questions. So you actually need someone to guide you to asking the right questions and really teaching you how to think.
I think it will, based on what you said too with the examples, and now with tools like what you're putting out there, being able to start asking those questions, get the knowledge, and then continuing to build upon that.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of framing AI as, say, replacing human work, I can tell you're a very big advocate, not only from this conversation thus far, but even from your past conversations you've had in interviews, with really making information and knowledge more accessible to others.
Yeah.
What are some surprising ways that you've actually seen, now that people have access to this information, people use Comet?
3 or 4 things I can point out. Since these were publicly shared with the users, I'm sharing that. One is like a user was frustrated talking to the customer support of FedEx.
Okay.
He just had Comet talk on his behalf to the customer support, which could have been a bot too. You never know.
Yeah.
So Comet got access to the tracking ID and all that, and Comet is like filing the complaint on his behalf and then going back and forth with the customer support agent on the other end of FedEx. That was very interesting. Another user actually like figured out a way to run a marketing campaign on Facebook ads platform for a new product that they were going to put out on, for a small business that they were running.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. Some people like to unsubscribe from spam emails, and like Google doesn't quite know to detect if something is spam or not. So you can literally have Comet look at the username and the domain name and the email and tell you if it's potentially spam. And if it is, then you can say messages similar to this should be flagged as spam for me, and you unsubscribe me from these kind of email lists, and it'll just do it for you. So this makes you believe like there's a world where even if the software that you're forced to use because you're in the, like these softwares are built by different companies, even if they're imperfect because they're not designed for you, you can make it work for you. And that extra work that the developer ideally has to do but might not prioritize because it's a problem for like N of 1 user, it's no longer a problem because you can just personalize the software for you. So Comet provides a bridge between what the software that works in a general way and the software that works for you could be. And there are endless applications like this. Like, for example, people are using it to like, just keep up to date on like the stock price. Like you can just say anytime, like, I don't want to keep looking at the S&P all the time, but anytime there's a crazy movement, just let me know. And that way you're like delegate. It's all the second brain concept. Like whatever frustrates you or like to waste your time. And we want to hopefully do things like when the tickets for this concert open up, make sure like you book it for me. You have access to my wallet, everything. But I don't want to be the one checking when it opens up and be at the wake up early morning just for that. All these sort of things, like we want to like figure it out for the user. And for example, you might have booked a flight and like while you're sleeping, if the flight price actually reduces and Comet is running on the background and it's like going and rebooking the flight for you, canceling your existing booking and saving you like $1,000, then it's worth it, right?
Major.
So these are the things that we want Comet. So the last thing that I said does not exist today.
Yeah.
So if the user tries out Comet today, that's not going to work. But that's the next set of things we're working on, which is Comet is running on the background on the server, even as you sleep, and you don't even have to have your MacBook or Windows computer like open with the browser open. Like it should just be running on the background, and that's how essentially the second brain becomes like an OS that helps make your life more efficient.
So much more efficient, because at the end of the day, first brain, second brain, it all comes down to time. Time is the most valuable asset.
Correct.
And
so we think about it more from not just like saving time and giving you back time. It's more like removing time spent on activities that you just don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like we're okay if you spend more time browsing, or got more time spent with your family. Like a lot of people who write code or like who work in tech companies, one of their biggest questions they ask is, how is work-life balance? And it's hard to have a work-life balance when you work in a fast-growing company. But why is that? Because a lot of time is being spent on doing things inefficiently. So we think about it less as productivity and more as like making time spent more pleasant and enjoyable. Like just do things you enjoy.
And you're naturally going to be more creative in that aspect then.
Yeah.
You're happier and can do things you enjoy.
Exactly.
And that's where real innovation typically comes out.
Exactly. Yeah. So removing the regrettable time spent in work is great.
I know we focus a lot on the software side of AI. Lately, I've been really curious, though, about the hardware. Is that something that Perplexity has to keep in mind as a hardware side? And if so, to what degree?
Fundamentally, the part of hardware that matters the most to us or for other AI companies too is inference. So all these models are like most of the value of the software that comes in something like Perplexity is coming through the model layer. Not 100% of it. And again, like just because the model matters a lot, like doesn't mean the other things don't matter. But most of it is coming through the model, and so and those models are running on GPUs, and so that's any innovations there will automatically matter to us. Interestingly, like the last 50 years have all been about like making computing more efficient at the chip layer. Of course, the Moore's law, but then GPUs don't necessarily follow the Moore's law, but they've had this sort of amazing next generation chips coming all the time that make these chips even more suited for the transformer architecture. And why is that? Because the transformer architecture is essentially just a lot of matrix multiplications. It's heavily optimized for parallel computation. And so anything that can increase the memory bandwidth, the speed at which data is communicated between the different registries, how the chip is even like built, the next generation chip, in terms of like how much HBM you have access to, all that like helps you to package longer context, like the sequence length, bigger models, and also like throughput in terms of how fast you can decode the output tokens. And like the latency, the time to the first token, like the moment when the answer starts streaming. And especially when you're doing agent stuff, like it has to do multiple sequences of thinking and actions, and like it shouldn't be too slow. And of course, the stochasticity of all this, the more deterministic you can make with existing hardware, the low precision, as you go low precision, like stochasticity increases. So these are things that will impact how the software works. So you do need to understand the implications of the next generation chip. And how it makes things more efficient for you. Should we like stop using H100s and go to the GB200s? Okay, is there a new rival to NVIDIA? Should we look at that? Are they offering like much better speeds? Like, what is the catch? Like, there's always a catch. When someone comes and offers, I have something 1000x better than NVIDIA. There's always a catch. And it doesn't work for all the models. It only works for certain architectures. It's not like it's going to scale. The trillion parameter models don't work. Like, you got to understand the consequences. And then the other side of it is personal hardware. Like, can there be a future where all these models can just run on your MacBook? Would that disrupt the NVIDIA's data center, like economy? Where, right now all the models are living on the servers, and like all your AI software is just sending requests to those endpoints and getting back the answer and streaming all that. it can be way faster. The models are just locally running on your device.
Oh, yeah.
Because that round tripping just goes away. But then your battery is going to die if the models are running on your phone. So, but Apple's making continual progress in its chips. That it's kind of standardizing the chips that run on the MacBook, the iPad, and the phone.
Yes.
And so, at least in a year or two from now, there is a possibility that a GPT 4.1 or like Gemini, or the best models today, a model to that class running on your MacBook in a year or two from now is possible.
Yeah.
And so we're already creating a lot of value with AI today. And imagine that it just runs on your local device. That could be pretty interesting.
It would be.
Yeah, so we think about it from the consequences of what can happen at the application layer. What are all the new things we can do for the user? For example, in the case of Comet, if the intelligence, the model can run locally on your computer, we can guarantee full privacy.
Yeah, the privacy, I was just thinking about
Like
that.
all your
Huge.
data that gets used by the agent,
Yes.
which is essentially a reasoning model, does not have to go to any server, and everything else on the browser, your passwords, everything else is encrypted and living locally. Your history is local. So if the model is also local, like it's an end-to-end private browser, and we can take advantage of all the hardware that Apple's going to build for their computers and ship the AI. So that's exciting. And then maybe 5 years from now, like it can all run on the phone, or maybe there'll be like a way to share the computer across the MacBook and the phone and the glass. So there's like all sorts of like ways in which the hardware can play out over time. Yeah.
And it's true, then it does impact to some degree, your decisions for how you're building things as well as to where it is today, but also where it's headed.
Yeah, we focus a lot of our inference team efforts today on data center inference. So especially we've looked into multi-node inference, where it's not just like one node of H100s, but like 2 or 3 nodes, and we showed that the throughput is even higher when you work like that. And we are currently like benchmarking the Blackwells versus Hopper and seeing like, the next generation NVIDIA GPUs are giving us even better throughput and latency. But we are, like if there is a time, there is an inflection point for local compute, like which is honestly bottlenecked by whether there exists a model that's good. And of course, M1 chip progress. But I'm sure we'll get there, and then we'll focus a lot on like the MLX compiler, and help like ship models locally on our, like if we have obviously Comet is a local desktop application. We have the Perplexity desktop app, so we're going to ship models that are local, and it can integrate with your local files, and users are not going to feel scared about it because it's going to run on your phones and you own it. And then you could imagine a new innovation on top of that, which is like something like a, I wouldn't call it necessarily entire model fine-tuning, but a few weights in the model could get tuned for you personally. So that's your personal intelligence. So then you get to own that model. It runs on your device, and all the training and its updates
is of you.
It's on your data, and that never goes anywhere to any other server. So that would be a great, even if we can achieve that with just prompt engineering or context engineering, that's also fine.
Yes.
And so that way, like everything feels like it's your thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With the pace of AI development, how do you prioritize what to ship now versus what to hold off on for long term?
Honestly, the number one change most developers or like engineers who come work in our company or other AI companies have to make is adaptation. The world changes so fast. 6-month plans don't even make sense. So we kind of work here with like quarterly plans, and even that we're not rigid about it. Like we are very flexible in terms of changing our worldviews. The one thing that's been constant, like usually, like I like Jeff Bezos' paradigm of this, where when the world is changing fast, you have to ask the inverse question, which is what is not guaranteed to change. Right? Like in his case, he asked like, in 10 years from now, would people want slower package delivery, or would people want worse customer support?
Yes.
Or would people want less selection of choices? No, they only want more. So work on those problems.
I like that.
And they nailed it. So in our case, the people are always going to want faster answers. People are always going to want more accurate answers. People are always going to want the AIs to like do things for them, not just like answer stuff, but actually go do stuff for them. And so you got to work on these problems, regardless of what happens in terms of whether the models are getting cheaper or like more expensive. These are not the customer's problems. Like customers don't care about these problems.
Yeah.
And again, like interestingly, one thing that's been true, fortunately, in AI is the cost of running inference has been going down. It's not clear how long it'll continue, but it's definitely like going down. And more intelligence gets packed more compactly into smaller and smaller, or like more efficient models. Of course, all models are sparse, but like still, the way we run inference of sparse models is really, really improving. And the chips are still improving, like, you know.
Yes.
So I think there's like plenty of competition at the model layer to like keep continuing this. A lot of investments being poured into like efficiency gains, and that's benefiting the application layer like ours. So we get to like reap the benefits of all this.
Yeah, exactly.
So I make my decisions based on like not what's likely to change, but what is more likely to remain the same. And so you can like take concentrated bets on that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's really smart because it is changing so quickly. You know, I found it really interesting throughout our conversation, you reference, I can tell that you've really studied other successful individuals. And I think that's really, really brilliant. How has that helped you by studying? You know, you mentioned Jeff Bezos. How has that helped you? And how much do you take of what you study from them and actually apply it to your decision making?
I've studied all the successful entrepreneurs. You know, all of them are great in their own ways. Everyone has like one common aspect, like resilience.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the most important characteristic that I try to take from them, because things will not always go well. And I've had like so many days in which like just waking up felt like so miserable. Like I wanted to go back to bed, but then, you know, the whole company is like working here. The investors have put a lot of faith in me. You know, the employees, even though they're doing their job that's scoped out for them, fundamentally, like they have a lot of stock and they're relying on me to like stay there. So resilience is probably the most important characteristic. Being curious, obviously, you gotta like constantly keep questioning. You gotta ask the right questions. That's how I think about it. So that requires the right frame of mind. You know, so fundamentally, if you're not a curious person, you wouldn't even be asking questions, leave alone the right ones. So staying resilient, staying curious, and moving fast. That's you know like a quality that I force myself to like try to be decisive. Don't try to like drag along just because you never have perfect information to make decisions.
Yeah.
You know, and this is again like a framework, the Bezos framework of one-way door versus two-way door decisions helps you a lot. Like, you know, like, well, sure, like if you're wrong, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like your company is going to die.
No, exactly. You're going to learn from it.
Exactly. You're going to, And as you grow more and more, there's hardly going to be any decision that makes or breaks the company.
Yes.
There could be some decisions that really damage the company, but there'll be nothing that makes or breaks the company.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's good. I really like that. You know, to wrap up our conversation, you alluded a little bit to some things that were coming, specifically with Comet that are coming up. What can you... I'm sure there's a lot that you can't fully share yet, but what can you share? What can we expect that's coming up for Comet?
Yeah, so people are mostly on their phones. As you know, like the world has changed since mobile phone became the dominant form of computing. So we got to make the mobile versions of Comet ready,
Yes.
both iOS and Android. So that's the next step. And then we got the fact that AI really works. You know, you can just ask an AI to do stuff for you. It's much more natural to like interact with the internet now with just voice.
Yes.
So having like voice work even better and even more naturally on Comet, both on phones and computers, but especially on phones where you know it's kind of annoying to type stuff. That's going to be very important. So we're going to work on that. And lastly, like the Comet assistant should be able to like do things from the background for you. You shouldn't always be having a computer open and typing in and waiting for it to do stuff. It should be able to do stuff even as you sleep.
Yeah, I love that example you gave.
Flight
yeah,
thing, yeah. So I think these are the kind of things we want Comet to be able to do by end of the year. And hopefully it feels truly special. I mean, look, the bar is you got to be able to feel the utility of the product to the extent that your work and life should run on it. That's why I call it the OS, the operating system, because the computer science definition of an operating system is where processes are run and memory is being managed. And your life is that, except there's no OS for your life. The OS exists for the computer applications today, like Windows and Mac. They're all running the applications that are meant to be run there. And some of your life lives on those applications, but it's all very disconnected.
Yes.
And you're still the one that's orchestrating your life. I don't think about it as like you giving up your agency, but more that delegate the boring aspects of your life that make your life like kind of annoying and stressful to something like Comet. And you get control and live your interesting part of your life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm leaving this conversation very excited and extremely inspired. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.